What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of WTFranco. Today we want to share with you guys what we think are the most important topics to talk about while you're dating. And before we dive in, I just want to put a little disclaimer out there. Everything that we're going to share is based purely on our personal beliefs and convictions. If you agree with everything that we say, that's awesome. If you agree with some of what we say, that's awesome. And if you agree with nothing of what we say, that's okay.
Awesome. So let's get into it. So what's the first topic?
Number one, waiting until marriage. As you guys know, we're both Christians. When we started dating, it was super important for us to know that the other person was on board with waiting until marriage. We personally believe that God created sex for marriage, and we just wanted to honor that.
But trust me, waiting, totally worth it.
Hard, but worth it.
If you know what I mean. Number two is if you want kids. I think that's super important because what's the purpose of being with someone if they don't want kids at all? Like for us, like I wanted 4 kids and she wanted 4 kids, but after having 2,
done.
And I'm not the one having the kids, so we're done.
And there's nothing wrong with someone not wanting to have kids, but again, you want to make sure that you're with someone that has the same desires as you. So number 3 is money. Ching. For me, this is a really important topic to talk about, especially because I'm a super hardcore Dave Ramsey person. And it can be really uncomfortable to talk about finances with someone that you're just getting to know. But again, if you're trying to date intentionally, this is something that you really want to make sure that you and the other person are on the same page. And just a few questions that we asked each other when we brought this topic up were, do you believe in making a monthly budget? What's your stance on debt? How much debt do you have? What's your stance on credit cards? What's your philosophy on giving?
So topic number 4 is expectations. And this is huge because you have to have that tough conversation with your partner and say, what do you expect for me as a man to do in a relationship, and what do I expect her to do as a woman in the relationship? For us, we believe that the man is the head of the house, but at the same time, being the head of the house means that you're the server of the house. That's what Jesus did. And as that same way, I'm gonna empower her to be the best that she can. And I know that she's my queen, so she's the neck as well. She's gonna help me become the best man that I can. And this is something that I love about my wife. She always says, try to outlove your partner.
I consider myself a very independent, hardworking woman. And for me, it was really important to make sure that him as a husband, he was gonna support that he was gonna support my dreams, that he was gonna support me pursuing a career. I know many women that just wanna be stay-at-home moms, and that's awesome. If that's what you want, girl, live your life. But there's a difference between you wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and once you get married, your husband demanding, hey girl, you gonna stay at home and take care of the kids of the house, and that's all.
I didn't want to be the typical guy that comes from work and expects my wife to have the dishes, to have the laundry, to have everything done while I sit down and watch some TV. Which would be easy, but that's not the life that we wanted, and we made sure that everything that she was gonna do, I was gonna do as well. We're both equal in the eyes of God, but the head covers the body, which is the wife. So we cover her with protection, with blessings, and
with
obviously
prayer.
with prayer and taking care of her.
Yeah.
And that's not watching TV, her cooking, her doing everything, her taking care of the kids, and we're just relaxing.
Number 5 is the topic of friends. Everyone has differing opinions on this. For us, we believe that when you enter into a marriage, you shouldn't have intimate friendships with people of the opposite sex. This is something really important to talk about before dating, because if you don't agree on that, that can cause a lot of fights in the future. And I know some of you may be thinking like, oh girl, you just insecure or you're just jealous. But honestly, we just think that that's playing with fire. It has nothing to do with insecurity or jealousy. We love each other. We honestly trust each other 100%. But we just don't believe that intimate friendships with people of the opposite sex are really necessary, because then maybe you just didn't marry the right person.
Topic number 6 is family. And this means family boundaries. This is super important. This is a subject that we didn't talk that much at the beginning. And because of that, we were caught in the middle between learning how to navigate the relationships with our in-laws. And that's why it's super important that you should have those conversations of how much are we gonna allow them speak into our marriage? Where are we gonna go and spend our holidays?
And something really important for us as well was to make sure that we were never gonna share our marital problems with our parents or our in-laws, we think that, you know, if you have any sort of marital problems, you should either look for a counselor or other couples that are going through the same thing. This was actually the only topic that we didn't talk about while we were dating, and we kind of ran into just a few bumps in the road along the way, and that's why we think that it's better to have these conversations beforehand.
Yeah, and remember that verse that it says you're gonna leave your mother and father to become one with your wife. So now that's your one family.
Number 7 is love language. So there's this book called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, and it's an absolutely amazing book. And it's basically a book that talks about the 5 general ways that people express and receive love. And the reason why we think that this is super important is because when you enter into marriage, you want to make sure that you're loving your spouse the way that they need to be loved, and vice versa, because that's one of the things that's going to contribute to a healthy marriage.
So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, gifts, quality time.
For example, my love language is physical touch. And Saeed's love language is acts of service. So if my love language is physical touch and Saeed is always giving me gifts, for example, I hate receiving gifts.
She does.
While it's nice and I'm gonna appreciate it, it's not the main way that I feel loved. And in the same way, if his love language is acts of service and I'm always giving him words of affirmation, which as a wife we should still always do, it's not the way that he most feels loved. So we always want to make sure that we're loving our partner the way they need to be loved.
Yeah, and if you guys want to see that book and buy it for your relationships, we're going to link it on the description below. So the last topic is your future. That's super important to talk about because you want to know where your partner sees himself 5 to 10 years from now. What if you see yourself as a missionary and the other person sees themselves as a lawyer? Like, one of you is gonna have to compromise your wantings.
I agree, and that's actually one of the first questions that Saeed asked me on our very first date. We were in the car driving to the movie theater, and he looked over at me and he was like, "What's your calling in life?" And
a bit intense.
Yeah, I remember in the moment I was like, oh, whoa. But honestly, I was really glad that he asked me that because I think that was the first moment where we realized, whoa, we have like the same desires in life. We have like the same vision. And that was one of the ways that we kind of knew this is the one.
And yet again, we say, this is our perspective. This is how we did our relationship. But I strongly believe, like, if you're not able to ask those questions at the beginning, then you're just wasting time.
And you can ask these questions at whatever age, but also take into consideration, Saeed was in his 30s when we started dating. I was still in my early 20s. I'm much younger. No, just kidding. And again, that's also why we were asking such intense questions. If you're in high school and you're dating, there's absolutely no rush. You have all the time in the world to be asking these questions, as long as you ask them at some point before you get married. Aside from obviously prayer and confirmation from the Holy Spirit, these were the topics that really helped us know that this was really the person for us. And like we said in the beginning, if you agreed with anything that we said or if you disagreed with anything that we said, that's okay. But we would love to hear in the comments below what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, and if you have any topics that maybe we haven't thought about, that can also be super helpful to talk about when you're dating.
And remember, please like this video if you really like it, subscribe, and we'll see you next one.
See you next time, guys.